Middle of last week, gentlemen, the Vancouver Canucks and Florida Panthers made a trade. Jared McCann going to Florida in return for a big defenseman, Erik Gudbranson. Ed, you wrote an interesting column about how the Panthers front office had been shaken up to reflect the increasing use of analytics in hockey management. It's not just the eye test anymore on a player, it's possession and that sort of thing. Talk to me about this, about the Panthers, about the evolving NHL.
Yeah, well, this is a fascinating case for me because it's going to be one of the real proving grounds of analytics versus the more subjective way of, objective way, I guess, of judging talent. When I first saw the trade, I went, are you kidding? They got a 6'5", 220-pound right shot defenseman who's 24 with a reasonable contract for assets which aren't really going to impact the team for next year and possibly 2 or 3 years. This is a steal. Then the other side emerges, why, and the Panthers' commitment to analytics. And to me, this debate is going to be going on and on and on in the NHL because more teams are investing heavily in analytics, and so the debate will be, is it a worthwhile tool? Can you base your judgments on analytics, or is it just one of many variables that go into these decisions? And the Canucks are right in the middle of it. It's a fascinating case for me.
Paul, you know a lot about analytics, and you've studied this a bit over the last few years. How much do you take stock in it? I mean, it's something that's been going on in baseball for longer than it's been going on in hockey, of course. Do you believe in it? Do you think, and in this case, when you think about what the Panthers clearly thought of their big defenseman, well, is it problematic for the Canucks?
I don't think it's problematic at all. I'm with Ed. I think you look at, there's so many other things to look at, and that's the issue with the analytic argument is you have to be in one camp or the other. Are these numbers interesting? Absolutely, and you base some of your decision making around that, but honestly, you have to see a guy play and put it all in context. For instance, I'm guessing that Mark Crawford looked at analytics that said that Wayne Gretzky wasn't very good on breakaways when he chose his Olympic shooters. Baseball, a big one, but soccer's been using analytics for a long time. Everyone's in love with Barcelona and possession, who holds onto the ball the most. Do you know who had the worst possession in the English Premier League this year?
I know. Leicester City.
So the issue is you can fall in love with the stats, but there's a way to play. And if some guys' possession numbers aren't good, how much was he on the ice? Was he always paired up against the other team? It's like plus minus. It's a tool, you can use it, but don't get away from the basic fact and the bottom line that if you have a 6'5" right shot defenseman who has a bit of a mean streak, who's 24 years old, and it's clear this team is building a blue line based on size, I mean, you put it all in context. I think this is a great deal for the Canucks.
Last question, Ed. Some analytics are complicated that you have to keep looking them up to see what exactly they mean. Some are obvious, things like, say, offensive zone starts, which is not something you really talked about 10 years ago, but it's a relatively simple one. It's like, there's a face-off, it's in the offensive zone, why are the Sedins not out there? Is this something that the Canucks coaching staff struggles with?
No, I don't think so. I think they're invested in it, and it was, Mike Gillis actually put this in the team's DNA. He was really at the forefront of it, and this is only going back 5, 6, 7 years, so this is how new this all is. But I would say this, I think we look at baseball completely differently than we did when I first came in contact with Bill James back in the early 80s. Then it was all about batting average, home run, RBIs, and these crazy stats like WAR, and even on-base percentage and slugging percentage. Well, now that's part of baseball orthodoxy. We've completely revamped the way we judge players, and I would submit we're moving a little towards that in hockey, but it's just a different animal. The metrics, the measuring sticks, they're just not the same as they are in baseball, where you start at a static place and end up in a static place, and you can measure everything in between. Hockey is so much more fluid, so many things happen, but I still think it's an interesting tool, and I think it's an interesting way to look at the team. It just can't be the only way you can look at the game.
All right, well, I'm a bundle of nerves thinking about Erik Gudbranson's possession stats. We'll see how it pans out in the fall.